Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're just going to keep continuing our studies about velocity banking. Um, I always like to make a plug for a velocity banking one-on-one video. If you've never heard of it, have no idea what the concept is, go ahead and click the link down below and then come back to continue your studies. Now, in this video, we're going to talk about extra payments. Now, what is extra payments? If you've never heard of the term, all that means is after you've done your budget, any savings that you have is going to go to the loan, and so you overpay it, and the loan goes away quicker than you normally would. Now, one of the things that I want to kind of point out is that sometimes you don't really see the value of something until like you're in an extreme situation, right? And extreme in this case would be, quote, paycheck to paycheck. But what's sad is that many average Americans live paycheck to paycheck, right? So here we have a paycheck here of $5,000, expenses $5,000, zero savings, right? Zero savings, zero cash flow. And then after we've done our budget, we just make sure that our expenses match up. So we do an expense breakdown. And I always say in every single video that every debt must be its own line item because that's cash flow eaten away, and that we can easily recover if we're able to do velocity banking correctly. Now, here in this situation, maybe the rent used to be $1,000, but the landlord decided to be a D and is now $2,000. And then we have other expenses, and that's because of the inflation, right? Now, let me just point out something. Here in this scenario, because we have absolutely no savings, we can never spend $1 extra than our budget or a paycheck. No, you can't spend $1 extra. So let's say you wanted a candy bar, right? Candy bar, and you're frustrated because you're living paycheck to paycheck, and you might go to the gas station at 3 a.m. at night, and you're filling up on gas, and then you're at front of the counter and you want an extra candy bar. Can you get it? No, because what's going to happen? Consequences. Consequences, right? So you have this extra dollar expense. You have negative cash flow, right? And so something's got to give. So either you're not going to have the money to pay the candy bar, so you're going to steal it, or okay, something else might happen, which is usually common. You put it on a credit card, right? So let's just put this $1 balance here to the credit card, and the candy bar expense that you were going to directly pay, hopefully, now is a credit card bill. Okay, it's a credit card. Now what's going to happen? Well, like I said, something's got to give. Either I don't pay the student loan in full, I pay $399 instead of $400. Uh-oh, that's going to ruin my credit. Same thing with auto loan. If I pay the student loan in full, maybe I'll pay the auto loan by $1 less. It's going to ruin my credit. Or I don't pay the credit card. It's going to ruin my credit. Or I don't pay the full rent amount. I pay $1,999, and that's going to be an eviction for me, which may appear in my credit. Or I just pay less in food, and that's what a lot of sacrifices. That's a sacrifice a lot of Americans make, right? Less food. So unfortunately, if we're ever in this situation in a paycheck to paycheck scenario, there's no winning, right? There's absolutely no winning. And people advocate, oh, velocity banking is nonsense and just pay directly with your savings. And you could definitely do that if you have savings, but if you have no savings, how do you overpay? Impossible, right? So now let's just demonstrate how velocity banking can benefit this person living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so what do we have to do here? What to do it the velocity banking way, all we have to do is just transfer as much as we can with these debts to the credit line so that we can easily free up this cash flow, right? And if we take a look here, I always use the same numbers in every single video over and over again. We have a $10,000 student loan balance, $13,000 auto loan balance. I want to get rid of these. And the bank said, hey, we can give you a personal line of credit for $25,000 available balance and 50% interest rate. You might say, what's a line of credit? It's a credit card, essentially. All a line of credit is that you put whatever you pay, so you can borrow money, you pay it back, and then you can reborrow it again. That's all a line of credit is. That's a credit card. essentially. So you just use a line of credit. That's your main operating account in Velocity Banking, not your paycheck or not your checking account, right? You want your paycheck, but you're not going to use your checking account as your main operating account. Okay, so back to what I was saying. I want to recover this cash flow, get rid of these debts. So I just moved 23,000 here. And then what happens? These debt goes to zero. This goes to zero, right? Rent stays the same. Other food, gas, insurance stays the same. Now, look at what happens. My expenses, they were originally $5,000. Now, if you sum these up, then it's $4,000. And the savings with Velocity Banking, we don't really work with savings. It's still zero, but our cash flow is $1,000, right? Because the idea is that we're going to use our line of credit as the operating account. We move the paycheck to the line of credit entirely. So this will go down $5,000, and then eventually the expenses will be used from the line of credit. So it's going to creep up $4,000 eventually, accordingly, right? So after every month, the expenses are going down about $1,000. So all you got to do, just do a simple formula of equals G2 minus the cash flow, minus the cash flow, which is 1,000, right? So we just kind of keep doing that, and then we'll just paste this until this goes to 0. Okay, cool. Now, how many months is it going to take us to pay off this line of credit? I always like to say the first month is month 0. And then let me just kind of do a quick formula, which is I2 plus 1, and then just figure out here how many months it's going to take us. About 22 months to pay off the loan. About 22 months. Now, one of the things that I want to emphasize is that here, when we're living paycheck to paycheck, there's no possibility of ever spending extra money, especially we could never apply it to a loan, right? Here, we have $1,000 of cash flow, and if we never ever needed anything extra, such as that candy bar, we'll be okay in any time of the process, right? So here, even in the beginning scenario, if I needed an extra dollar at any time for that candy bar, maybe it might delay paying off that credit line, but I'll be okay. Whereas with this situation, paycheck to paycheck, impossible. I'm restricted. I can't do anything, right? All right. So next thing, just in case you're curious, is you would calculate the interest that you'd pay. So how do you calculate the interest for using this line of credit? Because again, OPM requires you to pay interest. As far as I'm aware, I don't think I've ever really heard of 0% OPM unless they're introductory credit cards. Okay. All right. So how do we calculate the interest paid? Basically, what we do is take the interest rate, 15%, multiply it by the previous month's balance, and then just divide by 12. So 23,000, whoopsie, WH, no, I'm sorry, G2 times the interest rate, which is 0.5, and then divide by 12. Now you might say, why do we divide by 12? Because the interest rates are quoted annually, and you want to calculate the monthly interest, right? And that's actually technically wrong because you're supposed to calculate the average daily balance, but that's almost impossible to do because we don't know when expenses will be paid from our credit line because this is an imaginary scenario. Now, it ain't real, right? So good enough is good enough. And yes. Okay. So now let's just sum up how much we're going to pay in interest. So if you want to just sum up a column, all you got to do is just press the sigma button right here. They taught us that this meant sum in Algebra 2 in high school. So we just click it, it sums up our interest, and we're paying $3,400 in about $34.50, right? So this is an exact calculation because again, it's based on the average daily balance in real life, but we're just saying it's based on the monthly balance. But good enough is good enough, right? But my point is that when people talk about extra payments, and that's the preferred option, what about if you're living paycheck to paycheck? And sometimes you don't appreciate the nuances of what maybe a new way of doing things can do for you, unless you're in the quote most extreme situation. So if you're living paycheck to paycheck, there's no hope. You do velocity banking, you want the extra dollar, you're good, right? So something to really consider when it comes to doing velocity banking versus doing extra payments. Now, if you have the savings, can you pay extra on your loans? Absolutely. Go ahead and do it, right? Use what you can. If it helps you save money, interest, why not? But the reason that I may not do it is just because I need to free up some cash flow. Just like, we just generated $1,000 of cash flow out of thin air without making more income. And people will say, well, I got to make more income. No, not in this situation. You're good. And, it may not be ideal to just have maybe $1,000 cash flow. Maybe you want $2,000 because this would be paid off a lot faster, but that's okay because, you have good, better, best. This is good. This isn't the best ideal situation, but it's good enough. And I'm okay with paying this loan a little bit under 2 years and paying $3,000 in interest. So we're good. All right. So this is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. Just a quick discussion about extra payments being impossible for paycheck to paycheck Americans, average Americans. And that is the average American because the average American lives paycheck to paycheck. But it's impossible, right? How do you pay $0 extra to a loan? You can't. But when you have velocity banking, you have that extra $1,000 available in cash flow. Isn't that amazing? Right. Okay, so if you have any questions, comments down below. And as always, I'm going to make a plug for the mentorship group if you're interested in learning about real estate, velocity banking, leadership, entrepreneurship, or a combination of those things. Go ahead and click the link to the Google form below. We'll get on a Zoom call to talk and see if you'd be a good fit for a group. And we'll speak next time. Have a great day, everybody.